DreAllDay.com.
Are companies exploiting their employees? I'm not even talking about any specific company. I just want to talk about the general concept that I see a lot of people throwing around these days. People who clearly have been influenced by the ideas of Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman, his daughter, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, amongst others. Well, I guess we got to give Bernie credit for being one of the godfathers of this, but they have many other disciples and peers. This is not really a political argument, but they are in politics and they tend to have big megaphones. And it's led to a lot of people pushing this idea that companies exploit their employees because they're using the Ibram X. Kendi frame for things, that anything that leads to an outcome that doesn't go well for a certain person, it must mean that the source of the process that person went through, they must be wrong, rather than the person maybe just be going through the wrong process, or maybe they're getting the outcome they should get and the person's just playing the wrong game. But instead of giving any, instead of giving any, let's just say, power, or putting any responsibility on the person themselves, the Ibram X. Kendi frame for outcomes in life is that anything that leads to an outcome that is not good for the end user, there must be something wrong with the thing rather than anything wrong with the choices made by the person. And this is Ibram's actual frame. He used it in his book called How to Be an Anti-Racist. You can read it for yourself if you don't believe me. Or you can listen to my series where I broke down Mr. Kendi's book, and starting episode number 1788, Destroying Anti-Racism, where I broke down exactly what he says in his book, and I'm reading direct quotes from what he wrote. But anyway, this is about employees, people who have jobs, for whatever reason find themselves in financial straits, or at least what they consider to be financial straits, and they don't have the money that they want to have. So the frame, either from them, the employees, or often it's their, I guess, people who want to call themselves advocates of these employees, saying, well, the reason why these people don't have the money that they want to have is because the jobs, the employers, the rich people, these are your oligarchs, according to Bernie Sanders, the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezoses and the Mark Zuckerbergs and the other business owners out there. They are the ones exploiting the employees, and that's the only reason the employees are in the situations that they're in. We are going to address this today and tomorrow in the next two parts of this the next two episodes of this show. Now, this is one I find myself debating with people over anytime the subject comes up, because I usually will jump in it and respond when I see people using these nonsense frames. And it's become a bigger and bigger topic as more people are complaining about the oligarchs, quote unquote. These are the rich people with all the money that are somehow, some way suppressing and holding down everybody else who doesn't have all the money. Now, this is a very convincing frame, and it works very well on people simply because it's much easier for a human being to blame someone or something other than themselves for their circumstance than it is for them to take responsibility for their circumstance. For that reason alone, this works. So I'm not even mad at Bernie Sanders for doing what he does, and AOC for doing what she's going to do when she takes the torch from her uncle Bernie Sanders. But at the same time, it's still some bullshit what they're saying. Like, sometimes people can be doing some bullshit and it works very well. All right, what these two are doing. And again, there are hundreds of others who do this. I'm just giving them credit because they are fresh on my mind, because they're the ones I see talking about it the most. And there are a bunch of others. A woman named Nina Turner, who's very popular for this as well. They say the oligarchs are collecting the money, they're running the government, they're squeezing everybody else out in the process. I don't buy into this. I do not believe it to be true, if you can't tell already. Although it is true that certain people have more resources than other people, that doesn't mean that they're doing something wrong to the people who don't have resources. Now, just think about this. Simple logic. There are more people in the masses who are not the rich billionaires than there are rich billionaires. Therefore, it is easier to get the masses to go against these few than it is to get the few to, the few can't have a big voice because there's only a few of them. Even if they all said the same thing, there's only a few of them, but there's a whole bunch of people in the masses. So it's very easy to stir these people up this way. I mean, this is pretty much the game of politics and how it works. And if you want to get involved in politics, if you can get good at doing this, you can have a long career like Bernie Sanders. So you could be in politics talking about the same thing for 40 years and never achieve anything, yet still be popular like Bernie Sanders. And he is grooming his protege to be the exact same thing. Just because an idea has steam does not mean that the idea is accurate, nor does it mean that the idea is based in truth. So today I'm going to break this down. I'm going to explain it today and tomorrow. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, the question we are examining is, do companies exploit their employees? And again, it doesn't matter what company we're talking about. So first of all, let's answer the question. Answer is hell no. And again, I'm not talking about any particular company. No company is exploiting their employees. None. Zero. There's not one company in the world, excuse me, let me not say the world, let's say United States. There's no company in the United States that is exploiting their employees. None. Now, how can I be so sure in saying this? Let me tell you how. Is it possible for you to be being exploited in a place where you have accepted the terms of engagement? The answer is no. You can't say you're being exploited when you have accepted the terms of engagement. That doesn't even add up. How can you say you're being exploited when the terms of the way things are working, you were told and you said, yes, that's exactly what I want. And then you're saying, well, you're exploiting me. Now, the definition of exploit means to be used for someone's advantage. Now, the second definition is especially, when they say exploit of a person, this is the definition we're really talking about here, unfairly or meanly used for another's advantage. So you're being used unfairly. How can you say a situation is unfair if you agree to it? By definition, it can't be unfair. You agree to it. So as soon as you agree to it, it's fair. Now, if you don't think it's fair, then why are you doing it? Just say no and walk away. I mean, y'all remember the war on drugs from back in the 80s and the 90s. What would they say? Just say no. Just say no and walk away. You can't be being exploited if you accepted the terms. So if you accepted that the job says we're going to pay you $15 an hour and you say, well, my lifestyle costs $25 an hour, but I'm only getting paid $15, therefore the job is exploiting me. Bullshit. You accepted the job. How are you going to say they're exploiting you? The only way you can be exploited is if you didn't know what the terms were and you find out that the terms are worse than you thought they were, or you were lied to. You were deceived in some way. Actually, because I can't just say because you didn't know, because ignorance is not always an excuse. If someone presents you a contract and you sign the contract and then you realize that there was language in the contract that you didn't want, but you signed it because you didn't read the contract, then did you get exploited? No, because you were presented the contract. You didn't fucking read it. All right, you can't blame the person who gave you the contract. Read the contract. Now, if somebody lied to you and told you something that wasn't true, well, then you have basis for legal recourse. But you didn't know what you didn't know. Ignorance is not always an excuse. So if any of these things are the case, we have a different conversation. But if you're an employee working at a job and you knew the job paid X and you took the job, then how can you claim exploitation? You signed up for it. So if you don't like the terms, maybe the terms were good then, but they're not good now. Understandable. Things change in people's lives. Okay. Now you need to go in and renegotiate the terms, or you can go get a different job. This is the way that things work. But don't say that you're being exploited when you're doing something that you chose to do and that you voluntarily accepted the agreement. It's amazing to me how people have created these revisionist theories in their minds, and they even get away with saying this stuff, and a bunch of people buy into it when they say it. And there are people out there who actually accept this is as a reality. I'm obviously not one of those people, but I just find it very interesting that people can buy into this when it's so obviously bullshit. Now, listen, there's every human being probably has some bullshit that we agree with, but this one, you accepted the situation. It told you it was going to pay this much. You're realizing that you can't make it on that much. And now you're saying the job is exploiting me because they're using me. They're not using you unfairly because they can't use you if you don't show up to work. You have a job at Pizza Hut. You just don't show up to work. They're not using you anymore, are they? You just didn't show up. You keep showing up for a place where you're being exploited, but you keep showing up. So how are they exploiting you? Slavery was exploitation. Now you had people who couldn't leave. They were there, not on their own volition. They were being forced to be there under the penalty of very harsh repercussions, and they had to work and they weren't getting paid. That's exploitation. You have a full-time job working at Target and they write you a paycheck every 2 weeks and you go home every day and you come back to work the next day. That's not being exploited. You could at any point call the manager and say, yo, I'm good. I ain't working there no more. They're not going to shut down their business. They'll be all right without you. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, are our companies exploiting their employees? Definition of an entrepreneur, in case any of you didn't know. It's a person who starts or runs a business enterprise while taking on greater than normal financial risk. That's an entrepreneur. Now, why am I giving you this definition? I'm giving it to you because you need to understand an entrepreneur is in the position to collect the most return on investment from their business venture. Why? Because they are the one who took the fucking risk. That's the way it works. If there are 2 people involved in a business venture, the person who took the most risk gets to collect the most reward. Why? Because they took the fucking risk. That's the way it works. Now, what does this have to do with an employee being exploited? Everything. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you are risking your time, your money, and maybe other resources such as your reputation, your credit, your goodwill, everything, in order to get that business running and to keep that business running. All for the possible payoff of owning an asset that is producing money consistently without you necessarily having to do all the work forever. That's the reason why you become an entrepreneur. You are risking your resources and your reputation, possibly, for the possibility of owning an asset that is continually producing money in the positive for you. And because the entrepreneur took the risk, the entrepreneur gets the bulk of the reward. So if I start a business, a grass cutting business, and I hired 3 people to work for me, I'm the one who took the risk. I bought the machines. I bought the lawnmowers. I went and paid for the flyers to put up on people's doors. I went and knocked on the flyers to put up on bulletin boards. Excuse me. I went and knocked on the doors of all the neighbors to get people interested in my business. I went and did a couple free landscaping jobs to show the value of my work. I'm the one paying for Facebook ads to get more leads. I took on all that risk. So when the money comes in, $100 of profit comes in, $50 goes to me. And between my 3 employees, you each get $10, 10, 10, 10. And the business gets to keep $20 to go into our business account. And $50 goes to me as profit. That's the way I want to split it up. Now, if the employees are looking at it and saying, well, Dre, you got 50. I only got 10. He got 10. He got 10. You got 50. How is that fair? I say, motherfucker, because I started the business. How much risk did you put up? None. All I did was hire you for a job. You didn't risk anything. I hired you for a job and told you you were going to get $10 for doing the job. You were guaranteed the money as soon as you accepted the job. I owe you $10. As soon as you say yes and start doing the work, I owe you $10, no matter what happens. If my business fails, I get nothing. I lose everything that I put up in order to get the thing started. So I get the bulk of the reward because I took on the bulk of the risk. All right, that's the way entrepreneurship works. And this moves us right into our next point, which is point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is, are companies exploiting their employees? Number 3, if you take no risk, you get no reward, or at least not a big one. If you take no risk, you get no reward, or at least not a big reward. Now, what does the reward and risk mean? If you are an employee working at a company, you didn't take on the risk. The person who started the enterprise, they took on the risk. So they get the bulk of the reward and they break you off the piece that you have accepted to receive, i.e. your salary, your wage, your payments, whatever that happens to be. Your reward is limited by whatever is offered to you and or accepted by you in terms of here's what you get in exchange for your work. This is the way it works. This is how employment works. And again, in case any of you didn't know, all of you understand this because everybody here has probably had a job at some point in your life. When you work at a job, your risks are limited. You don't take on that much risk. You usually don't have to put any money on the table to take a job. Has any of you ever had to pay money to take a job? And I don't mean pay money like you had to pay money to buy a suit to go to the job interview, or you had to pay money for a pair of shoes because you need shoes to work at the job. I don't mean like that. I mean that you had to pay money literally to the employer or to the company for the right to be employed there. Most of you have never been in that situation where you had to spend money to get a job. Most of the time when someone goes and looks for a job is because you want to earn money, not because you're looking to spend money. So because you risked no money in order to start working and earning a profit, you have no risk in the game, no skin in the game, as they say. All you get paid is what you accepted, which is the $10, the $20, the $50, the $100,000 a year, whatever it is. And the bulk of the profit that comes in goes to the people or person who took on most of the risk, which is the entrepreneur. And this is exactly how it should be. It works perfectly. Even if that job goes under and the business completely fails, you don't stand to lose any money. The only thing that you risk, quote unquote, is the time and effort you put in at the job, but you get paid for all that. So you're not really risking it. It's not like you put in time and effort at a job under the risk that you might not get paid. Maybe there might be one pay period where your boss didn't pay you because they didn't have the money, that they couldn't make payroll that week, but then you could just not work until they make payroll. All right, that happens, but it's not like you lost a year's worth of salary, or you lost your shirt in the process, or all your credit went bad trying to get this thing going. That didn't happen to you. What happens is you go to work, they owe you X amount of dollars, they pay you X amount of dollars, the business goes out of business, is out of business, you didn't lose anything. You go get another job. If the business completely fails, the entrepreneur loses everything they put into it. If you never put any money into the venture in the first place, you can't complain when the big returns come in and you don't get to partake. Now, the owner of the business, again, as I already said, their name, their credit, their reputation, whatever they were able to raise, if the business fails, all of that's gone. Their name is attached to every piece of it. They taking on a big risk. They stand to get a bigger reward if they can make it work. And because you've taken on a small risk or none, you don't get as big of a reward or a penalty regardless of what happens. Your penalties are minimized, your risk is minimized. You want no penalties, you take on no risk. Okay, you got a very low downside, a very low upside. You want a big upside, you got to take on a big downside. This is the yin and the yang in life, folks. If you want a big ROI, you must take on a big possible loss, the possibility of losing. You can't win big without possibly losing big. A lot of people want to win big in life, but you don't want to put yourself in a position to possibly lose. This is the reason why many people don't win. Not because you don't have the desire to win. It's not because you don't have the potential to win. It's simply because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you could possibly lose just as big as you want to win. This is the reason why you can never win. You don't put yourself in a position to get a big victory or a big loss, then nothing big can ever occur or will ever occur in your life. This is the reason why most people live very nondescript, uninteresting lives, because they never do anything big enough to draw any attention. Whether it's a failure or a success, nothing they do ever moves the needle that much because they never go very far in any direction. I just told you not too long ago that the edge becomes the identity. It was episode number 3406. Extremity becomes identity. So I said the edge, but what I should have said was extremity. The extremity becomes the identity. And I'm bringing that one up to help you understand, if you don't push yourself to any extremities, that's fine. You have a right to that. You can live your life however you want to. But if you want a chance to win big, then you have to go to an extreme on some level, on something that has significance. And that means the possibility of losing just as much as the possibility of winning. Now, of course, you want to hedge your bets as much as you possibly can, but there's no such thing as a surefire win when you're betting. You got to be willing to place a bet that means you might lose. And if you're not willing to do that, then you can't claim that you're being exploited when the people who did bet win big and they get to celebrate big. Where were you when they were risking it? With that said, let's recap today's class. Again, was part 1 of 2 of our mini series here. Are companies exploiting their employees? Again, this is going to be a 2-part series. Number 1, the answer is hell no, they're not. Now, could you be being exploited in a place in which you have accepted the terms? The answer is no. You can't possibly be being exploited because you accepted the terms. Number 2, the definition of an entrepreneur is a person who starts or runs a business enterprise while taking on greater than normal financial risk. Because they took on greater than normal financial risk, any high upside results that happen, they're the ones who get to partake. Why? Because they're the ones who took on the risk. Number 3, if you take no risk, you get no reward. You must be willing to take on big enough risk that is in proportion to the amount of possible loss you're going to take on in order to position yourself to get a big win in the future. And tomorrow we're going to go into part 2 of this so you understand this even further, that no company can possibly exploit somebody who decides to work there, especially in the United States of America. Between now and then, you want to be the business owner, you want to take on the risk, you're ready to take yourself to that extreme, and you're ready to take yourself to that edge and make it your identity, starting with your mindset, then going into your actions and outcomes. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach. I'm ready to help you get there. Work on your game. Dre, all